Um, yeah, bittersweet. Just um, there's some things out in the universe that kind of aligned perfectly when all this started happening. I'm like, you know what? I have to do
Yeah, no fault in it. We still
Did
love you.
Lydia leave too?
No.
Lydia's staying there. She's actually, I think she's I'm not sure all the details of that.
Yeah, Lydia's gonna transition into more of a TC role. She's gonna try to pick up more business and take over some stuff, which is good.
Okay, it's open. Are they?
Yeah, there.
But here's the thing, guys, and I'm gonna put this out here, and Sam can attribute. We see agents move brokers all the time. It's whatever they feel is best for them, and it's okay. This core group, even though we're ran off of a Keller Williams Zoom call, it's still our group. So I don't care what color logo you have on your shirt, what state you're in, what community you're a part of, or hell, what even person you voted for. You're still welcome. So I'm going to share that out there. And Anthony, you can tell others that are in your organization there if you find someone that would benefit from this environment, invite them. This is not a Keller Williams, even is a Keller Williams thing. It's a big Dan Caldwell thing. Sam was also pushed out of Keller Williams for some bullshit, and I'm like, no, 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 no. You're my Sam. You get to stay with me.
This is my red hair, which is wild to me, but I mean, I guess
We had one. That's all they could stand.
yeah, I guess.
One ginger, two men. So that was I want to talk about that because we're going to hear a lot more. And I just got news that there was another team, a big team that left Keller Williams. So it's going to make people think, what's going on at Keller Williams? Nothing. People leave for selfish reasons. We are a selfish species. It's a fantastic thing. People are going to go do what makes the most sense for their business. Now, is this move going to be beneficial for everyone? No. There are people on that team that are already leaving that team because they don't want to move. We will embrace everybody, regardless of anything. So, that being said, happy Friday. It's Friday, right? No matter what you guys hear, no matter what rumors are out there, I ain't going nowhere because I'm stuck to this. This is me. This is real. Not real broker, as real estate and life, right? That's my company is Real Coaching, is REAL, real estate and life. So that being said, 5 minutes in, it's 8:05. Let's take a dive into your wins.
I picked up another possible listing. So that's my win this morning. With
Heck yeah, Andrea.
I'm working with an investor. So he wants to use me.
I love it. Nice job.
Today's inspection day for my buyer.
Woo!
And we went live on our listing in Chandler last night and are already getting calls this morning.
There we go.
I closed on a land deal last month, and now the same client wants to buy the parcel next to him. So I'm talking to him and the seller to get that started.
Nice.
I got a listing referral from an agent that I did just like some showings like 2 years ago, and I was like, oh, I need to be helpful, and I just wanted to be active and be as helpful as I could. And now I got a listing from him when I only made like $200 when I helped him with his buyer, so I'm really happy about that. And I got a referral from on Instagram.
There you go.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Instagram in a second here, actually, before Sam jumps into his finance stuff. Any other wins, celebrations, something you're just dang proud of? Lydia, how's your foot feeling?
I was just gonna say I walked around my house without my boot yesterday.
That's a win.
That's really cool. And then also when I went to my doctor's appointment the other day, the nurse, her father is an investor who's really unhappy with his real estate agent. So she gave him my number, and hopefully he calls me soon and we get that relationship going.
Heckin' yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Heckin' yeah. All right. Yesterday, I gave you guys a challenge. Who did it? Other than me.
I didn't do a skippity video yet, but I did do a video yesterday.
Okay. Sam, yesterday we were talking about vernacular and having fun with the social media posts and getting out there, like embracing the weird and a ridiculous. So I challenged him to do a story yesterday, not even a live post. That was something that lasted 24 hours and it was gone. Of today's brain rot vernacular in a post. So
That was a legit video.
everyone was excited to do it. No one did it.
At first, I thought you were having a stroke. I couldn't understand the words.
It's all good.
So it
Like
sounds
how you-
like sometimes.
You got the inspector involved and everything.
I even told him as he walked up, I'm like, all I need you to say is, I'm built for this. And he said, we built for this. I'm like, whatever. He was stupid confused.
He didn't practice, Dan. He didn't practice.
As he walked up, I was like, dude, I need you to do something for me on the video. He goes, all right, what do you need? I'm like, I need you to say something. I'm going to say a bunch of nonsense words. I just need you to say, we're built for this. He's like, okay, I can do that.
Oh, and another thing I've seen in your video, Dan, is that normal for HOA not to want people to get on the roof?
It isn't normal. This is out in Green Valley. They had just replaced every roof in the HOA, like last year, 2 years ago. And the HOA said no inspectors on the roof. Only people on the roof are licensed contractors. And unless they are with our company, it may void your warranty.
Oh, God.
Which is great for the roofer, because people trump around on the roof all the time doing dumb shit. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, so that's all it was. All right. Sam, what's going on in the money world?
Well, you started the call off by saying something like season of change or
Season of
something.
change.
Yeah,
This is a season of change.
it really is. I don't know if you guys have paid attention to kind of what's going on at the executive level lately, but talking about 500-year mortgages and portable mortgages and all kinds of crazy stuff.
I think the portable mortgage is an interesting concept, and I feel like that is just the quick way for people to really get screwed.
Yeah, so let's talk about both those things, because I think, well, let's hear it. Before we talk about both those things, I think so 2009, the Obama administration came out with the HARP loan, which is basically, it was a refinance that allowed, at the same time we just had like the Great Recession, and then we had massive quantitative easing, which is the Fed buying mortgage-backed securities, which in turn lower mortgage rates. The problem with that was most people at that time couldn't achieve a refinance because their house is underwater. So we came out with the HARP refinance, which allowed them to do a rate and term refinance on their primary residence and not consider value. So they weren't considering loan to value, which allowed people to refinance the mortgage and save their house. Whenever you refinance or buy, there's a couple factors that are considered, obviously debt to income, credit, and then the big one is loan to value. That kind of determines like the risk threshold for the loan. So that was a huge thing. Preceding this massive surge of HARP refinances, we saw one of the greatest runs in real estate that most people see in their careers. Like the 10s, 11s, 12s, 13s, 14s. There was really like a decade of just awesome real estate performance. And so, there's a lot of things getting thrown around right now. The portable mortgages, the 50-year mortgage, we'll break both those down in a minute. But I think the bottom line is, anytime at the executive level, they really consider and try and come up with a plan. It could be a terrible plan, but it always stimulates movement. It always stimulates movement. And whenever, movement happens, that's when growth happens. So you can't have one without the other. So, I think this is a really good thing regardless of how it shakes out. I think there's pros and cons to both sides. I don't think anything's been decided yet as far as like what this will look like. But let's break both of them down. So a 50-year mortgage, I think in most cases is a really bad idea for most home buyers, just because we are, we're a nation of consumers. We don't really budget. We don't have as a median, we don't have like an investor mindset. From an investor standpoint, when I look at a 50-year mortgage, I think it's an awesome idea. It frees up cash flow. It's an extra, a couple $100 a month off that payment. And for me, if I redeploy that money, I know that I will be able to outweigh the interest I'll pay on that debt, just in an investment, right? So it's looking at the future value of money versus the current value of money. But for most people, obviously, when we have extra money, we end up spending on something or getting into some other, debt, and it could not be a good thing. The portable mortgage is something that I think we're more accustomed to. So basically the way that would work is, let's say that Dan has a home that is worth, I don't know, $500,000, $400,000, and he owes $200,000 on it at 2%. And he wants to buy another house at $400,000. He's going to sell his house for $400,000. Well, the liens would get paid off. He would have a mortgage at 2% for $200,000 that he could then take from this house and move to this house, and then pay the difference in the current note rate minus what his down payment is. So it still follows like, LTV rules, which is, 5%, 10%, all that stuff. But it would allow him to essentially blend his rate, and it does lower the overall cost. I think the idea with that is we have this pretty large segment of homeowners that will probably never move because you're not going to see 2% rates again. And it allows them to kind of take that mortgage and redeploy it into a house that works better for their family, for their life situation, all that stuff. I think that one makes more sense in a general perspective than the 50-year mortgage. But either way, whichever is decided, even if it's something completely different, I think that change is always a good thing. If anything is always a good thing if you take it with a grain of salt and if you look at it in the right perspective. But I think that this is a good thing. I think that we're about to see some pretty drastic shifts in how real estate and real estate is handled in the next decades to come. And we have to be willing to adapt and always kind of find the wins and find the way to make this make sense. But if you look at it through the right lens and through the right perspective, you can always find them. But I wanted to kind of hear, like, what are you guys? I've seen so many posts on both that are inaccurate, accurate, just a lot of crazy stuff. So what have you guys heard, and what are some questions you might have in this that maybe I can help dispel them or give perspective or whatever? What have you guys heard, and what have you seen in your social medias?
Yeah, what are your thoughts about it all? I think one of the most important things we need to do is have opinions on it and be able to articulate how that affects the clients that are serving it.
100%.
Jim.
No, I was just coming off mute because I wanted to engage in the conversation, but I was late getting the trash cans down to the curb, so I missed the whole question.
So at the executive level, we're talking about a few different really drastic changes they're designed to kind of promote homeownership in the United States. The 50-year mortgage, the portable mortgage. What are your thoughts? What have you heard? Opinions, questions? This is a dialogue day. So
for people, sorry,
Abby.
Sorry, Jim. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, from a 50-year mortgage, like at first, when I first heard it, I'm a big advocate for as little to no debt as possible. And 50-year mortgage, I was like, holy crap, you're gonna be paying, $500,000 purchase, you're gonna be paying $700,000 in interest. But it is going to open the doors for affordability, right? People's monthly payments are going to be lower. It's going to be more buyers, be more sellers, et cetera, right? So I see there's two pros and two cons to obviously both sides. What will it do for us as real estate agents? I think it'll probably be beneficial, as long as they don't jack up interest rates to compete with the influx of mortgages, which I don't think they would do. But what is that going to do to long-term affordability or equity? Hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's where my question comes in, Sam. Like if they were to go with a 50-year mortgage, one, how much does that actually save them on a monthly basis? And two, are they increasing the interest rate for those particular mortgages to where it just, I mean, what's the point? You might as, you know what I mean? Like what is the difference?
I seen a breakdown online, and they did it on like a $400,000 loan, a 30 compared to 50. Like you're only saving like $200 a month, and I feel like that's not worth it, you know?
Exactly.
It really isn't. Now, a 50-year mortgage makes sense if it's a 50-50 interest split,
Right.
where you have a better interest yield. And that's one thing. If they can change how the mortgage interest is accrued and or paid, banks hate it. I'm sure Spam would say no, thank you, because that's where banks make their money. It's very front loaded because we know we're in a transient community where people move every 7 to 10 years. So why have a 30-year mortgage when they're moving in 7 to 10 years? I want to make my money up front. I want to make as much of my interest up front as possible. So I'm going to front load the debt. I'm going to front load all my interest in the first 10 years. So you're paying off 80% interest. Now, that's what it doesn't make sense on a 50-year mortgage because you're still moving every 7 to 10 years. Now you've paid off even less of the principal balance. So I look at it as like in car sales. It is a flat accrual of interest. You take the sales price, you divide it by how many months. That's your base. Then you take the sales price and you multiply it by the percentage. And then you divide that by 12. That's additional every month. And it's flat interest. However, if I were buying a car every 7 to 10 years, let's imagine it's every year. I buy a car, I finance it, I put 3.5% down. I drive it off a lot. How much money have I just lost?
10 grand.
Yeah. 27% on average. But then next year I go and I trade that car in. Now I have $10,000 of negative equity. Well, it's okay. We can roll it into the next loan. Okay, great. I'm going to roll it into my next loan. Now I bought a car at 110% of value. I drive it for a year with my 3.5% down. So I've only taken 7.5% away. So I'm still at 100. I'm still at 106.5% of value. I drive it for a year. I trade it in. I lose 10 grand. Now I'm at 116% of value. You see how that doesn't make sense long term?
Yeah.
It makes sense if people buy and stay, but we don't.
I think the big concern is it really creates an environment of equity stripping. And Dan, that the way you explain that is pretty spot on. You know, we have more equity in real estate than we ever have before as a nation.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also sitting on, you know, the highest levels of consumer debt that we've ever seen as a nation.
Yeah.
So despite what anyone tells you, the government doesn't care if you have equity, if you retire with a lot of money. They don't, I mean, but that stuff does not matter to them. What matters to them is we have an economy that keeps moving, that transactions keep transacting. So if just breaking down the simple math, because people posted a lot of stuff and I had to like fact check and, oh man, I want to be a keyboard warrior and like be like, no, your math is wrong, but I'm not going to do that because that just creates a toxic environment. But $200,000 mortgage, let's say, at 5.5% interest, a 30-year payment is roughly $1,136, whereas a 50-year payment is $979. So it's like $157 a month difference in cash flow. For most people, like I was saying earlier, because we've been raised and we kind of live in this consumer mindset or environment, we're going to take the 157 and say, cool, I can go buy the iPhone 32 now instead of having an iPhone 16, right? For the extra $157 a month. If you look at it from the perspective of an investor, if me personally, if I have an extra $157 a month on one single debt, I'm going to redeploy that. $157 a month at, let's say, 15% returns over 30 years, that's an extra 100, or it's like 1.8 million or $1.08 million accrued. So for me, I know that with the extra cash flow, if I redeploy it correctly, I'm going to make more than my return off of it. The extra interest you would pay on over 50 years at the same interest rate, you end up like the difference is like roughly $87,000 in extra interest you're paying. So will it equity strip? Most certainly. For most of the population, will there be people that utilize it correctly and actually see a huge benefit from this? Absolutely. It's all about framing and perspective. The jury's still out, whether or not this will actually be a thing. But I think that the biggest thing that we can do is have the right dialogue, ask the right questions, tell the right stories to our clients, and you can turn any situation into a positive. I mean, think about this. In our current environment, we have rates in the sixes. We have housing prices that are pretty much stable nationwide. We have a lot of things that could be perceived as a negative, and yet we still find a way to pitch it as a positive and find a way for this to be a win for our clients. Yes.
Oh yeah. That's how we do it.
Yep. It's timing, it's asking the right questions and telling the right story. So the more we understand it, the more we can have those conversations around it.
Why not a 100-year mortgage?
Yeah, why not 500-year mortgage, right? So there's France is a really good example of this, where it has become a predominantly rental-based real estate economy. Most real estate is handed down generation to generation. It kind of stays in families. So there's a huge separation between those who own real estate and those who don't. Even today in America, there's like a 400% increase, or sorry, delta between homeowners versus or renters versus homeowners, right? Just in net worth. I think any of those things, they do create this level of disparity between, the haves and the have-nots. But at the same time, it is one of the most important segments of our country's GDP. So the bottom line is anything at the executive level, even though, I'm not a huge fan of big government, that's a whole separate conversation, but anything at the executive level where they're trying to make proactive change, I think is a good thing.
And Sam, this might be hard for you to answer, but what does a 50-year mortgage do to like mortgage-backed securities, whatever? Like if you can't afford it at 15 years, maybe you can't afford it at 30. If you can't afford it at 30, maybe you shouldn't have tried to afford it at 50. Are we overextending ourselves that we might bump into another like situation?
Do you want to hear the unpopular opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the unpopular opinion.
We already have 50-year mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
The average home buyer buys at 30 years old. The average American lives to 80 years old. 50 of those years we're financing a mortgage.
Fair.
It is a psychological, sociological, social issue where we have agreed as a nation that debt is okay. If we go to different countries like Germany, right? Germany doesn't have mortgages like we do. Canada doesn't have mortgages like we do. They have a 3 to 5 year mortgage.
Holy crap.
And you have to every 3 to 5 years you have to re-qualify for your house. So people buy houses and make sure that they're making sound decisions. We have created a capitalist environment where banks have allowed predatory behavior that became normalized commerce. We say usury was a law, right? No more than 10% of interest above prime. That's usury, right? That's gouging people. But no one's ever talked about the structure. Now, I'm all about it. If I'm lending you money, I'm making money on my money. Because now I'm working, right? I may not be physically working, but my capital is working on my behalf. So it deserves a return. Just like when I'm doing a seller finance deal, I'm not doing a 0% seller finance deal. I don't care who your client is. My client deserves to get money on his money. But when it's amortized a certain way, you are absolutely just the first bit of it's all interest. Now, why do people rent versus why do people buy? If you're sitting in a house renting it for 50 years, it's 50 years of interest. You have no assessed value. You have no net worth gain. Versus 50 years in a mortgage. Yeah, you paid $1 million for your $400,000 house because of the interest. But you also have gained tax sheltering. You've saved on the interest that you can write off on your taxes still. You've gained equity from both debt buy down, being you're paying off your mortgage, so now the yield between what you owe and what it's worth is higher. You've gained appreciation. Hopefully, in the last 50 years, things have trended the way that they have for the past 50 years. If that's the case, then your $400,000 house that you've sat in and you've paid it off at a 50-year mortgage, gave to your kids, your grandkids, or your grandkids, that's $1 million worth of asset just because things have appreciated over time. Now, if interest rates are 3.5% to 4.5% over 50 years, and you take the debt balance, like if it was it's a $400,000 house, it was a $3,500 payment, and now it's a $3,100 payment. You take that $300 and you put it in an account and make 7 to 8% in 50 years, like Sam says, yeah, you have more than $1 million. But you're putting that $300 every single month away. The issue isn't the expense. The issue isn't the interest rate. The issue isn't the time that we have to pay it off. The issue is with America's desire for consumerism. I have $300 extra. I'm going to go buy something. Not, I have $300 extra. Let me go invest in something. A rich man takes $300,000 and buys a Ferrari. A wealthy man takes $300,000 and buys an asset that appreciates and cash flows and generates $10,000 a month. He then goes and buys a Ferrari on finance, uses that $10,000, uses $6,000 of it every month to pay off the Ferrari, has $4,000 in his cash flow, pays off the Ferrari in 5 years, still has the $300,000 asset. Notice how the mindset is different when we're looking at investments versus purchases. If you have $10,000, should you pay off a loan or should you buy something that generates $200 a month? That's a good question for your financial advisor. If you do not know how that works, financial IQ should be your #1 priority. Grow your understanding of money. The average millionaire has more than 6 sources of income. How many do you have?
This is kind of like the heart of why, even with my first time home buyers, I preach real estate investing and being able to look at it through that lens, because until you change your perspective and relationship with money, you will always be a renter, even if you own a home. And that's the harsh reality that most people don't want to accept. My first couple years of doing this, we're almost out of time. We're out of time. First couple years doing this, I saw this happen time and time again, where I get a young family approved for a home. They buy their first home. They're like, you know what? This is amazing. We got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, the white picket fence, American dream. You know what would look good in the driveway? Is a new SUV. Buy a new SUV. They're like, you know what? This new SUV needs a boat to pull. They buy a boat. And then a year later, rates drop when they call and I say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, let's save you guys some money on your mortgage. Hold on. You have now $150,000 in extra debt. We're discount prime. Well, we kind of needed to buy the riding lawnmower for the yard. We had to buy the boat. We had to buy this. So until you change your perspective and relationship with money, you will always stay in that renter's mindset. That's why it's so important to preach this and understand it and teach it and have these conversations, because we are the change that needs to happen in this world.
The conversations that I was having with my friends who are about like their early 30s, they were just saying like, we do have a lot of credit card debt. We do have a lot of like expenses that we're looking at. San Diego's not a cheap place to live. And then the news of the 50-year mortgage, it's like they were saying like we don't even and it was a couple of people just kind of giving the feedback like the most we've stayed at a job and they're, all working professionals like 5 years, less than 10. And so they're just thinking like we can't even imagine staying in a job for more than X amount of years that we don't like, that we don't, maybe we're just trying to level up, grow, move to different companies. So staying in a mortgage for 50 years or staying in a mortgage for 30 years just kind of seemed like unrealistic to them. And so
It
I
goes
think
back to that transient nature. People
Yeah.
move, people change. There's no expectation. We are in the society that our parents were the ones that sat and had that 30, 40-year career because they want the pension in the long term. Millennials came through and said, fuck all that. We're going to change how we look at life, and we're going to go where we're comfortable. We're going to go where we're appreciated, right? And from there, we became more transient. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, COVID said, you don't have to work where you live. Just have a faster internet signal.
Mhm.
And from there, we turned into this 6 to 7, maybe even a 5 to 6 year turn on houses. So if they're buying a house and they plan on staying in it for more than 3 years, renting doesn't make sense because all the benefits that go with it. If they're going to be in and out of these places for every 2 or 3 years, don't buy anything. You're wasting your time and money. Just like that analogy I gave you guys of trading in the car, every couple of years, you haven't paid anything off. You've just paid interest. You've rented it until you stay in it long enough or you keep it after you move. If you can do that, that's one of the best things. Yeah, you're moving, but you're buying a house everywhere you go. Now you have houses in 15 states. Hell yeah, rock on. That's how you make more money.
Hey, Dan,
Yes.
I have a question about
We don't,
LLC.
Audra, we don't have time. We're 4 more minutes over.
Mhm.
You want to text it to me, or do you think it'll be a quick one?
A quick one. I just wanted to know, is Sam gonna be talking about how, or you talking about how can we get an LLC? Because that's what I wanted to.
Yeah, that's next week, Audra. We're talking next week about setting yourself up for a business.
Okay.
Sam will gladly talk about that. Sam has many calls on it for investing and business structuring, making sure you're getting in the mindset of an investor, not just someone who buys and lives in a house.
Uh-huh.
So, guys, happy Friday. Thank you for giving us an extra couple of minutes of your time. Seth, thank you for joining. I know you just got on, but we're going to kick you off here in a second. But it's always good having another Ginger on the call, man. Right, Sam? Look at that. We're multiplying. So, everyone, this is Seth. Say hi, Seth.
I said,
So I'll see you guys back Monday morning, 8 a.m. If you need anything, text me, call me over the weekend. Your challenge for the next couple of days is do something crazy. I don't know, like go sell a house.
Let's go.
And seriously, put a lot of mindset around the thought of financial education and your IQ around money. Because the more that we can navigate the complexities of this, the easier it is for us to convert clients into it. So, and if you guys need anything, this is Sam. His phone number's in the chat. He is our go-to lending resource for our Rise and Thrive community. He's up in Washington, but he is an economist, he's an investor, and he's an all-around good dude. All right. Thanks, guys. What's today worth?